that's where it stands.
And we see now British Prime Minister Theresa May walking up towards the Menin Gate. Here, of course, in her official capacity as the Prime Minister, but she is also personally connected to this event. Her paternal grandfather was Tom Brazier, who served in the First World War as a Sergeant Major in the 4th Battalion, the King's Royal Rifles. And indeed, her grandfather Tom was awarded the Military Cross in 1915. His regiment was present at the Western Front for the Second Battle of Ieper. She's speaking there to Commander Tim Lawrence. She's also talking to the Secretary of State for Culture and now to the Mayor of Ieper. She's shaking the hand of Benoit, who we heard from earlier in one of our films. As I was mentioning, he is the man that makes sure that each and every night, when there are not VIPs and dignitaries and standards, that this ceremony of the last post goes ahead with dignitaries, with dignity rather than dignitaries, and he does a pretty good job. I spoke to him the other night, and he is a man of great precision and respect, as well as great height. And for this small town, Sophie, I know it is used to, and indeed Benoit said to me, well, we had Her Majesty the Queen here a few years ago, you know, this is just another event and we will take it in our stride. Do you think for this little Belgian town it feels like a big occasion right now? Do you think the centenary, 100 years on from what they went through, will be a moment for them to take a breath as well as to make the preparations and host such a grand event?
Yes, to be sure. It's also very obvious that British war memory, which has this extremely coherent narrative of the war and this extremely convincing aesthetic, you know, the poppies, the Portland stone, the poems, has really pretty much taken over war memory, including in Belgium.
And do you think also there must, I mean, as there is of course in every town, every city and every country, people of differing views who think it is time to move on. Is that something that is heard often in Belgium? Do people say we need to, all right, we've acknowledged the past for long enough, we need to move on from that?
I'm sure you would hear it, although they would not make themselves terribly popular around here, I think.
Yes, indeed. It seems a busy town that thrives on the business that this, inevitably, the tourism brings for them. And so we have many special guests coming this evening. We, at one point, will be welcoming the King and Queen of the Belgians, and before that, we're expecting to see the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. And so it is a fine night in Ieper. All preparations have gone smoothly. The dignitaries are gathered. The descendants are gathered. The bands are massed. And the preparations have all gone very smoothly indeed. It is a fine evening. And David, as you look, as somebody who is so familiar with every aspect, I don't think there's a question I could throw at you that you couldn't answer. I get that impression. When you see an event like this taking place, when you see what is essentially people connecting with history, that's an interesting moment, surely.
This event, this daily event at Menin, is a communion between generations. Nobody whose name appears on this wall is somebody who is alive today, we know that, but those connections to the generations are, they're permanent now.
I should let people know that we're just looking at the Belgian Minister of Defence, Steven Vandeput, is just taking up his place and shaking the hands of the welcoming committee. Sorry, do carry on, David.
Where this ceremony is taking place is where hundreds of thousands of men marched to the guns, to the trenches, to the battlefields. They walked where the dignitaries are walking now. That sense that this journey that they went through has to be remembered is very strong.
And of course, there, very distinctively, we see the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge making their way up Menenstrasse and towards the gate. And the Duchess accompanied the Duke to Belgium back in 2014 for a series of events to commemorate 100 years since the start of World War I. The Duke visited Belgium and attended the British-Irish commemorative service and reception to mark the centenary of the Battle of Messines. And so the Duke and Duchess being introduced there to the welcoming party of Karen Bradley, Secretary of State for Culture, Sir Tim Lawrence, who is the Vice Chairman of the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, and in a moment the Mayor of Ieper, along with Benoit Montry. It was last Thursday that the Duke carried out his last ever shift as an air ambulance pilot with the East Anglian Air Ambulance Service. He served with them since March of 2015. And by their side is the British Ambassador to Belgium, Alison Rose. And here now we welcome the King and Queen of the Belgians. And as monarch, the King, King Filip, is Commander-in-Chief of the Belgian Army, and he himself has a strong military background. In the Belgian Air Force, he was indeed a fighter pilot.
Every evening, the city of Ieper falls silent at 8 o'clock, and the last post is played by the buglers of the Last Post Association. With the sounding of this bugle call, the 250,000 British and Commonwealth soldiers who were killed on the Ypres salient during the First World War are remembered. The battlefields of the salient came to define the war for many British and Commonwealth soldiers. The defence of the city, at such great cost, meant that it became hallowed ground. Winston Churchill said of Ypres, "A more sacred place for the British race does not exist in all the world." It was from here, along the Menin Road, that so many marched towards the front line. After the war, when a location was being sought for a lasting memorial to these men, it seemed fitting for it to be built by the Commonwealth War Graves Commission in this place. Today, the Menin Gate records almost 54,000 names of the men who did not return home, the missing with no known grave. members of our families, our regiments, our nations, all sacrificed everything for the lives we live today. During the First World War, Britain and Belgium stood shoulder to shoulder. 100 years on, we still stand together, gathering, as so many do every night, in remembrance of that sacrifice. Thank you for the honor that you do us.
Every time we stand here under the Menin Gate, we feel overwhelmed by the immensity of the sacrifice of the men whose names surround us. And when a fresh breeze whispers through the arches, it touches something inside all of us. It is as if the fallen were telling us, "We did this for you." Indeed, they came to our country from near and far to defend our freedom alongside our own soldiers. Ever since, we have expressed our gratitude to these heroes, and 100 years have passed without it being diminished. I am proud of the people of Ieper and of other places on the Western Front, conscious of the sacrifices made by those who fought on Belgian soil. They pay homage daily on behalf of all Belgian citizens. The last post ceremony, held here each evening, is a tradition founded and maintained by the local community. It has taken place more than 30,000 times since 1928 and is an important part of the identity of the city of Ieper. Members of the Last Post Association organized the ceremony day after day on busy summer evenings and quiet winter nights. For your dedication, we thank you. Passendale was a struggle for freedom, our common freedom, the freedom we enjoy today. At the time, it was a fight for land, every possible meter of land. Blood soaked the earth. The bodies of the thousands of soldiers who remained here forever became one with the earth. So your graves on our soil have become our graves on your soil. In the same way, your Menin Gate has become our gate, and our cities and countryside on the Western Front will forever be a part of our common history. This battle, 100 years ago, makes the bond between our countries strong and everlasting. At our gathering today, let us, together with a new generation, renew our commitment to the fallen, to use the freedom we owe to them in a way that honors their immense sacrifice.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
And so the wreath-laying ceremony begins with the King of the Belgians, King Filip, and the Duke of Cambridge. And the turn now of Steven Vandeput, who's the Belgian Minister of Defence, and he will be accompanied by the British Prime Minister, Theresa May. Laying wreaths now will be Karl de Carlowy, who is the Governor of West Flanders, and Sir Tim Lawrence. Following on from them, Jan Doornas, who is the Mayor of Ieper, and Benoit Motry, the Chairman of the Last Post Association of the time. And now, in this final grouping, a large grouping, we see around about 19 members of the National Citizenship Service, and we'll witness them handing wreaths to representatives from various combatant nations that served in the First World War. The countries we see being represented this evening are Algeria, Australia, Bangladesh and Canada, the Democratic Republic of Congo, France and Germany. We'll also witness an Indian representative. Among the various colonies of the British Empire at the time, India contributed the largest number of men, with approximately 1.5 million recruited during the war and up until December 1919. There are also representatives from Ireland, Malta, Montserrat, New Zealand, Pakistan and Morocco. 24,300 Moroccans served in the French army during the First World War.
Glory came. When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow we gave our today.
And so the royal party now meets the Menengate last post buglers. These are 5 men who are part of an 8-strong voluntary team who alternates their responsibility for the nightly task of performing the last post. And the men they're meeting this evening are Jan Carlemagne, Tony Dizot, Ralph de Combel, Christoph Wils, Rick van der Koffeke and Derek van der Koffeke. And the voices that we heard this evening were those of the National Youth Choir of Scotland. They were singing O Valiant Hearts, and the soprano soloist we enjoyed was Carla Grant. We heard the King of the Belgians say that he was often overwhelmed by the intensity of this occasion. He said, "When a fresh breeze whispers through the arches, it is like the fallen, talking and saying, 'We did this for you.'" And we see the occasional poppy petals still floating in the breeze there. These poppies were dropped this evening to represent the hundreds of thousands of individuals who lost their lives, who died in the fields of Flanders. And the 90 singers that we enjoyed this evening congratulate themselves so far on a job well done, I think. They're between 16 and 24 years of age, and they were supervised today by their conductor, Andrew Nunn. And there we see the Prime Minister's message on the wreath that she laid tonight at the Menengate. And that is His Royal Highness Prince William's wreath. And there we see Theresa May, the Prime Minister, congratulating the National Youth Choir of Scotland on a job well done. They've got a busy year. In August they're going to be performing at the BBC Proms. Theresa May, of course, is the MP for Maidenhead, and in the Maidenhead constituency is the headquarters of the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. So that is a headquarters that she, in her role as a local MP, has visited.
After a young man who died, actually during he was on the gate here. He died immediately.
Now, the Queen of the Belgians' grandfather was a sergeant in the Belgian army. He was indeed captured by the Germans and spent much of the war as a prisoner of war in a German war camp. So for many of the people here, and as we mentioned earlier for Theresa May too, personal memories connected to this very civic and official occasion. And a wave there from the Queen of the Belgians before she makes her way into her car. And all of these royals will be meeting again tomorrow at Tynecourt Cemetery. And Theresa May taking in the majesty of the architecture, which, when you are standing under it, is really something to behold.
Go straight.